I'm just going to refresh my screen because it's covering my face. It's covering my face with a tabletop projection ad thing. I don't know if it's doing that on your end. I don't know if it's doing that on your end. Well, that's fine. We'll just go ahead. Hello, everybody. I'm back with Watercolor Wizardry. I'm going to mute this so that I don't hear my own feedback because it's distracting me. So I'm going to go ahead and start with, we have 2 characters that we're doing today as opposed to 1. We have Lustin Firewater and Amariel Amdither. And these are both for the Artena campaign, which is starting this Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And let's start with Amariel because she's first on the responses I have. So to give you an idea of what she sent in, she's playing a female half-elf. She has alabaster skin, green eyes, a heart-shaped angular face with a button nose, and light blonde wavy hair. She sent in like a couple specific things about like the, having flowers in her hair, having some druidic tattoos, and a few other things, as well as some reference for the type of clothing and armor she would like. So I'm going to take my reference and I'm going to start by sketching out the general pose. Since these are just going to be waist up, I'm going to be sketching out waist up, and I'm trying to include the hands and find poses that involve the hands as much as possible. And for her, she wanted like a more delicate kind of pose, and I couldn't find anything I liked. So I had my husband take a bunch of photos of me in different poses, and I'm going to grab some of those because based on the build she wanted for her character, my body type sort of fits, and then we're going to kind of play with some other stuff and try and make it work a little bit more easily. Since she's a druid, I'm trying for some hand poses that look like they could be vaguely magical. Another thing I asked the players to do is to pick a couple words that described their character, and childlike wonder was the thing that her character she chose for her character. So I'm going to try and integrate that as well and make the character look a little bit younger and maybe a little bit more innocent. Start with this. I want to just really roughly figure out the center line. I'm just sort of roughing out the body here. And let me double check her armor because I may not want to cut it off exactly at the waist. I think she had some pretty specific clothing ideas. Okay, so she wanted like some drapery like coming over here or something. I'll try and make it feel a little bit varied. Could have like some extra length from her belt, maybe have like some sort of wavy naturey shapes. Art Nouveau is like my favorite art style period, so I like to involve a lot of sort of like nature and plant flowy shapes when I can. So I'm going to go ahead and changing the face because I have the hands and body as a different reference photo and then the face shape as a separate reference photo. I'm going to make her cheeks a little bit bigger than they are in the photo I'm looking at because she emphasized like a heart-shaped face and that the character felt kind of innocent. So I want to make sure that I give the character features that feel a little bit more childlike, because if you want to make a character seem innocent or cute, you sort of exaggerate the features that make them look a little younger, which would be large eyes, large head, small nose, small mouth. And if you're doing animals, you would also give them large ears. Okay, and this is just sort of like a general roughen for the hair. I'm going to just roughen the hands now. Try and lay in some specifics about her body. I want her hips to be kind of like here and just end this just below the hips. I don't want to be too specific because her hands are going to take up like some space here and over here. I probably should have pulled this to the right a little bit. That's okay. It's going to get scanned. So usually in general, when you're drawing hands, it's easier to draw the hand first and then draw the arm because the hand usually ends up in a specific place and the arm is a lot easier to adjust than the hands and fingers. Generally speaking, your elbow will come to your waist when it's by your side, and then you can sort of like make a rough circle, kind of moving it out to figure out where it is apart from that. I keep getting paint on my hands, so I'm actually going to move my paint palette until I'm ready to start coloring stuff. I remember this happened last time and I almost got paint on the drawing. Okay. Grabbing this, pulling it back. I'm going to make her limbs and features feel a little less, I'm like a very sort of stringy, bony person, but if I want to make her look sort of childlike and innocent, I'm going to round and smooth out a lot of those lines just to make her feel a little bit softer. I feel like someone who experiences a lot of wonder probably hasn't had a ton of trauma, though it's D&D. I'm sure she has some trauma. Just pulling this over here. So I'm trying to figure out areas where I want to create overlap. I don't think she said anything about, I'm double checking. I don't think she said anything about this being a strong character. So I don't think I'm really going to give her much in the way of arm muscles. I do want to pull her muscle higher though, because it's too low right now. And then I feel like this angle isn't quite working. I want to pull this down and in a little bit. I'm using a 2H pencil right now, which works out really well because it's light. And so it's very easy to erase if I want to readjust things. And then when I feel more confident about things, I'm going to go over them with my 2HB pencil, which is a lot darker. It's just sort of like your standard yellow pencil. Yeah, that feels a little more natural. And I'm just going to kind of play around with it, really lightly roughing things in until I feel like I'm at a good place for it. Because we're already redoing the arms, and it's much more of a pain, in my opinion, to do the same thing by redoing hands. The elbow doesn't actually point straight out. It points, curves and points inwards a little bit more, a little bit down. Okay, this is feeling a little bit more like it makes sense. I like that. So this one, this comes out and it goes straight down. I want to make sure the elbow falls about to the same place. So I'm going to pull it down a little bit more, like over here. And I think she does have pauldrons from the armor reference that I was sent. So I'm not going to spend too much time fleshing out her shoulders. A lot of this is going to be costumed and have armor or clothing over it. That's a little thick for the arm, I think. How's that feeling? Not amazing. I feel like the angle needs to change a little bit more. That kind of works. Okay. So I think then maybe her hand does need to change because that arm just needs to be a little shorter. That's okay. I haven't drawn the fingers yet. Anybody is, oh, I just saw there were comments. Oh, she has a 16. Okay. Well, maybe I will give her some muscles then. We can emphasize her delts a little bit and maybe give her a little bit of a bicep. There we go. Not like crazy built, but I think that's will make her feeling a little bit more strong. All right. So hands you can kind of think of as boxes. Boxes that sort of fold and bend, like I want to grab in general, hands are going to be long boxes like this. And then they sort of come in at the wrist. And if you draw like a line through the middle, both sides, 1/4 of that is going to be the thumb. Like so. And then if you take the length of the hand and you double it, that tells you how tall the middle finger is. And the ring finger and the pointer finger are going to be the same height, a little smaller. And then the pinky finger is going to be a little smaller than that. And that gives you a rough idea of how big your hand is going to be, which is easy enough. And then when the character's hands are moving and the fingers are at an angle, you just sort of have to warp and change the box. So you can see I'm drawing the side of the box on here. Coming up, trying to figure out where that 3/4 mark is. The finger is going to sort of come up over here. And then hand will come up above that, sort of curve down. There's a crease here. So the palm comes in. And 2, okay, I think that's an okay length for the pointer finger. And then I have it curved. So for pretty much for every hand, if it's in a natural position and it doesn't feel like you're deliberately trying to put your fingers into like something where one finger sticks out more or less, the hands are going to fall into a gentle curve. You can see when I relax my hand, there's a curve here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that first finger and I'm going to just sort of find the curve and draw the curve. And now when I draw on the fingers, every finger is going to be drawn to that curve. And it's going to be an easy way to make those fingers feel natural. So let's go ahead and draw this one in. And same with the first joint. So where this finger bends, those fingers are also going to fall to a curve. Trying to go for like some hesitant, curious looking fingers where she's like about to grab something, but maybe a little afraid to. And then her other hand could, have some magic coming out of it maybe. I feel like Druid magic is probably green. I don't know if she has a set color scheme. This finger is going to be the smallest. Let's see, how's that look? Is that okay? That doesn't feel too long and stringy, right? I'm bringing the fingers to sort of delicate points. With people, our fingers do curve, but if you want to make a character feel kind of dainty, you can bring their fingers to points. And I do this with most of my female characters, and then unless they're specifically described as being like a little bit more like crude or strong or just specifically not dainty. I think with this character, the daintiness is going to help because drawing children's hands are smaller and chubbier, and they have some fat rolls to them. And so this will help giving some childlike features, but still making the character feel like an adult. Curve this at an angle. Make that wrist a little bit thicker just so that it feels believable. We have a bone here, just kind of emphasizing. Okay, I think that kind of works. Let's see, how does that look? I think that looks all right. All right, going in with the other fingers. Oh gosh, I picked like a very difficult position here. All right. There's a ton of foreshortening here. So all you can see of the hand box in this case is basically like this. And then all of the fingers are coming out like in different directions. And then the bottom of the hand, the thumb comes out kind of like that. So trying to achieve something like that. We'll see. One finger is like sort of deliberately pointed up. I made this big deal talking about curves, but I think I was trying to make it look like my fingers were doing magical things when I took this reference. So my fingers get a little bit Scarlet Witchy. indicate some of the knuckles. I'll just draw it as I see it, and then if it feels weird, I can bend it around. Because that's the longest finger. It's just foreshortened. I feel like that's looking kind of weird. Yeah, that middle finger's not looking good. Okay. Nope. All right, I'm gonna try and stretch it out a little bit and still keep the same shape. That's better. And then I'm gonna make them all kind of follow the same. Okay, I'll move the thumb coming up here. My thumb is a little thicker. I'm going to narrow this ever so slightly. All right. Feel like, no. Sorry, picked a tricky hand pose. All right. That sort of works. Works better anyway. Just have the thumb coming up from over here. Yeah, I feel like with less detail, it just kind of works a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so there are her hands. All right. And then I feel like there should be some little, well, I don't know. Characters are so specific with the color of their magic sometimes. I'm a little hesitant to actually have magic. Maybe we'll have a little flower sprouting on her hand or something. Because Druid craft, you can do that. Like she had a little. We could have some little petals sort of like poofing out. That kind of works. All right, and that gives her something to look at too. Should be fine. Maybe we could give her like a literal green thumb, maybe have some green fingertips or something. Be interesting. Okay. So I'm reading through some of the other things that she wanted for the face before I go in and I draw the face. Because now that I have the general body shape figured out, I'm going to figure out the face, then I'm going to start adding clothes. All right. An angular heart-shaped face, which seems a little counterproductive, but I think maybe the face shape can be really soft and heart-shaped, and then she can have sharp cheekbones or just like a lot of cheekbone shadow. Maybe that's what she meant. Okay, and then I need to give a button nose to the character. That's, oh, and she specifically wants an hourglass figure. So I don't know, maybe I should make her boobs a little bigger. And I'll like really pull in. She would have some back muscle, but I'll pull in where the back is a little bit more, just so that she can make sure she's happy with the general figure shape. I think she's turned a little bit more here than what I originally had. So just making sure the center line stays consistent so I know where her hips would start. I think that looks okay. All right, start with that. And then let's see. I think that's all. Almond shaped eyes, a scar on her eyebrow, and facial tattoos, which she did send reference for. Go to the reference I have here, and I just need to add, her eyes are already almond shaped on the reference, so I'm just going to add a button nose to this as opposed to the nose this model has, and then facial tattoos I will do later. All right. Okay. little button nose. And then giving her like a pronounced Cupid's bow mouth. Keeping it kind of small, but I'll pull the line of it out into a little bit of a smile for that wonder. And I'll have her mouth open just a tad. Just like she's surprised at what's happening. Right. And last time the character I was drawing was on the stream, and so it was really easy because he was giving me feedback as I drew, but I don't see this character on, so hopefully she'll be okay with what I draw. Usually I just do like a line in the back to indicate the difference between like her tongue and the rest of her mouth, but I'm not super zoomed in here, and I don't think it's super important. It's more about the overall appearance as opposed to like a face close-up. So, all right. And then for eyebrows, I'm gonna pull this up and I'm gonna give her eyebrows that are a little taller. And this model has very serious brows, but for a childlike wonder, I think she would have higher brows. All right, let me go through and just sort of block out the size of the eyes. Okay. She wanted almond-shaped eyes. I guess goes down more here. That's fine. Okay. And I know they're all specifying their eye color, but usually when I draw, I just fill it in with a pencil. So maybe I'll go over with some opaque green or something later, but okay. And then really emphasizing that heart-shaped face, pulling this out and then in. And then for the jaw and the rest of this, I'm going to try and go along with what I see on my reference. Right, and usually wherever that curve is, that's also the curve of your cheek. So that'll instantly tell you where the muscle of the cheek is, and you know where to add the shadow. So I think since she said heart-shaped angular, she probably meant like some heavy cheekbone shadows maybe, but then a heart-shaped face. It seems a little contradictory, so I hope this is what she wanted. We'll see. All right. I really like thick brows, but I think with a character that's really delicate, it might make a little more sense to give them thin brows. So I think I might stay thin here. All right. Okay, I think that's fine. And then just adding some points for the ears. Ears going to come in here. Try to use my eraser as little as possible, but I am a little bit nervous about getting this the way the character wants, or the player wants. Just erasing a couple lines that don't need to be there. Okay. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to look at that facial tattoo reference she sent. Oh, that's a lot of tattoos. Okay. All right. I feel like it's going to make her look less sort of like wonderful, not wonderful, wonder-filled and innocent. There's like a little bit of something here. It's kind of hard to see because I think she wants the hair kind of like this with braids. I'm going to sort of rough out how the hair is going to look here, because the hair is going to go over the clothes. So after we finish the face, we're going to do the hair. So you might not see a lot of the tattoos. She wanted some tattoos on the sides. I know they kind of go over the cheekbone for the character she's showing, but since she seems to want the face shape / cheeks emphasized, I'm going to kind of go over the back and make the tattoo a little bit smaller. She's got like a little lip tattoo. Okay, that looks fine. We've got facial tattoos, and then I'm just looking through the hairstyle that she wanted. I found a lot of things with braids. She sent me some reference for what she wanted for a couple things. However, the reference is someone else's art, and I don't feel comfortable copying what she sent. So what I did was I went through and I found some hairstyles with a similar vibe that are also braided. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of take the vibe of what she gave me and then follow from a few different things. So over here, I'm going to sort of pull the hair up, give her an almost like aerial swoop. I feel like this is a character that can have like a less probable natural hair shape since she seems very magical. Okay, and that'll turn into a braid. And I'm going to pull the braid, so there are a couple ways you can do braids. You can like draw out all the little shapes, like you can go through and just, kind of continuing to pull them inward like that, like it's a chain, or you can just sort of draw a wiggly shape and then you can, and depending on how like crimped or how like poofy a character's hair is, this can come out more or it can come out, like a lot less. And then you can just, draw a hairband on the end of the hair and it works just as well, in my opinion, and it adds a little bit more interesting shape language. And I personally like it a little bit more. So that's what I'm doing for the braids. The character she sent me has like hella long hair, like super, super long. I don't know if she wants it that long. I don't think she specified. I'm going to make it a little bit shorter, at least in front. I want to sort of have like some cascades of hair sort of in the back. So it's sort of like partially pulled up and then sort of drifts down so it's longer. All right, and then pulling this in. So braids all come from the scalp. And so if you start a braid somewhere, you want to sort of pull lines curving around and like trying to move around the scalp because you're pulling hair from like a bunch of different places. Okay. And then with the ends of braids, I like to sort of do a couple little zigzags. The trick with hair is draw whatever hair shape you want, like as a silhouette. There's a lot of curves in hair usually. And then pick one or two small lines like this to sort of help emphasize and indicate the shape. And then leave large lines, like leave this part large, for example, because varying small, medium, and large lines or large sections gives like the general idea of the shape the hair is going in. But if you have like a character and you draw every little strand of their hair, first of all, it's going to take forever. And second of all, it's going to add a ton of detail to it. So it's going to draw focus. And I don't want to draw focus to the character's hair. Like usually I want focus on a face or on something that they're doing. I feel like this hand is still a little too clunky. I'm going to smooth it out a little bit more. That's fine. All right. And then just kind of playing around with this, pulling back some of the hair. I'm going to go back and look at the reference she sent me and just make sure I'm not like way off base. Okay, so part of it is pulled back. It's just pulled back in a different way. I think she's fine with this. Hopefully she's fine with this. I'm going to check the comments just in case. Nope, nothing. That's fine. All right, so you can give the hair a part. Usually the part is wherever the bangs start. But if she doesn't have bangs, you can kind of pick it arbitrarily. I drew out the face, like the shape of her head, and I want to make sure that the eyes are in the middle. And they look like they're in the middle. There's a little bit more head on top, but her expression is lowered a little bit. And when someone's face is lowered, you see a little bit more of the top of their head. When it's raised, you see a little bit more of their neck and less of the top of their head. So I think this is perfectly fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out where each side of her hair is on, like so. And then whenever we draw hair, we want to make sure that it's pulled from this side and moves toward the part. So I'm going to start sort of like large, medium, small lines, sort of pulling a bunch of these back. And I think she had like a little wooden clip or something, but the character also specified that she wanted flowers in the character's hair. And I looked up like a cute little flower hair piece. Let me find it. Here it is. Okay, so I want to have like some of these hair pieces coming out over here. I was looking at like flower hairpiece styles, and a lot of them seem to be, you know, like attached to combs. And I feel like if she has Druid craft or something, maybe she doesn't use a comb, but maybe she just like the vines sort of like tie her hair up for her. I thought that could be cool. That's what I'm going to assume is happening. And then I think I think she put lots of flowers in hair. So I'm going to go ahead and just do like a gentle sort of little, maybe this is like a little baby rose over here or something. There we go. Oh, hello, Skagwater. We will be doing yours next. So yours will probably start, let's see, it's 2:30 in about like an hour and a half. And right now we're doing Amariel, the half elf. All right, I want some of this to sort of come out just to give her a slightly varied hairline. All right, I think it's okay if it's a little sloppy because Druids live in the woods. I don't think she would care too much. Okay. So then this will sort of fall to like a more general shape behind her back. And I'll try and still keep in some little flower bits or something. Right, I'm going to be kind of general about where her neck and shoulder is because I'm going to add armor here at some point. Let's see. I feel like it would be fun to kind of make it come back here, but she has her hands are in the way. Her arm is in the way. So I'll just kind of draw in a few of the blanks here. Trying to give some shape to the character and her hair. And continuing on with some of these like rough sort of wavy shapes. Maybe I'll pull a couple areas up. Just double check her hair description one more time. Yeah, light blonde wavy hair. Okay. Her hair's down with different braids. Oh, she said some beads as well as flowers. Okay, so maybe we can have like a series of beads here and a series of beads here. Maybe she can have a couple different. We'll give her another little braid over here that has some beads in it. That'll work. I feel like this hair no longer matches. That's fine. Okay. And then see, this is curving forward. Kind of want like, would it feel weird if this was sort of coming out like that? Maybe. What do you think? I'm not sure. It's coming down, comes out, comes out. Maybe there should be a little bit more of a gap. I had a gap here. I'm going to keep the silhouette design just a little interesting. Trying to make them feel separate, but like they still work with the character. And some little flowers over here. Maybe one up here. All right. Okay, so I think that's the face and hands done. And I'm going to actually go through and emphasize the hands on this side so that the line art is a little clear since it's overlapping with the hair. Okay. I think that's pretty much all we're going to do for the face and hands. Let's go over armor description. I know she has a sword that she uses, but I'm not feeling the sword. I think it would be sheathed since she doesn't seem, I feel like a girl filled with wonder also holding a sword maybe doesn't fit quite as well. Slash, it may make the facial expression a little confusing. She wears a green tinged crystalline breastplate with a high-low dress and brown leggings. I don't know what a high-low dress is. Oh gosh, one sec, I need to go look this up. A high-low dress is, oh, it's a dress that's like open here and then longer in the back. That doesn't matter. We're only doing waist up. Okay. Her ears are double pierced toward the tips. She has a serpent-like ring on her middle finger. Okay. So let's do a little serpent ring. Make it a little like snake head or something over here. In general, it's fairly small, so I don't think I'm going to notice too much. Okay, little serpent ring, and then double pierced ears. I think actually she sent me some earrings for reference, so I'm going to go look at those real quick. I'm going to switch to my darker pencil because at this point I'm drawing things that are overlapping and I want to make sure they stand out since they're significant details to the character. Oh. No, I don't think she sent me piercings. She sent me like a little crystal JPEG. She's called it a chakram. I don't know where it's supposed to go or what it is. It does not say. Okay. Oh, okay. It must be the crystalline charm on the sword. We're not drawing the sword. That's fine. Okay. So we'll just do, I feel like maybe like, well, let's just do studs. Studs are very easy and also they stand out. Because I think any complex shape is going to kind of get lost. Double pierced ears. I just want to make sure that it's very clear that's on the cartilage and not on the top of the ear. Okay. And a scar in her eyebrow. Okay. Well, I feel like this is a pretty common place to put a scar. On her eyebrow. I'm assuming it goes through her eyebrow. I could be wrong. It's a lot of stuff on her face though. I feel like it doesn't really work. Maybe we'll move the scar. I don't know. What do you guys think? Move it down a little bit. So we're just seeing the outside maybe. And then it could come through like up here. And then all we need to do is just sort of change her hair a little bit so that we can see the tip. I think that works. Because if you fill this blank forehead space and she already has a tattoo, it just makes her forehead look crowded. I think just compositionally, it doesn't look good. Okay, I'm just rereading the description one last time to make sure I didn't miss anything, because I know details are super important to different characters, and I don't want to get anything that feels really off about her, shouldn't be there. All right, I think she's good. I just need to figure out what she means by crystalline breastplate. Unfortunately, because she is so helpful, she sent me a reference of what a crystalline breastplate is. Sword, and then she also sent reference for, oh, the dress, which I don't think is. Okay, so what I'm seeing here, when she says crystalline, what she means is transparent, like an exoskeleton. At least that's what it looks like. I'm a little bit confused. Okay, so she's got like, it looks like she's got like a sweetheart cut breastplate almost that goes all the way down here and moves around to the side of the hip. It's gonna be kind of hard to move. Maybe we'll give it like kind of like an exoskeleton. We can give it like plating or something, almost like gills, so that she can move back and forth. Otherwise, I don't know how that would be functional. Because it looks like it goes all the way around the character, like a shirt. It must be magical. Okay. All right. So let's go through, and I know she's got these like sort of foresty druidic tattoos, and I want to sort of integrate that into the armor shape. And I think maybe the cut of the armor was probably important to her if she sent that reference, and then probably like the way it was portrayed, which honestly with watercolor, I'm not really sure how I'm gonna get it to look metallic and transparent. It would be a lot easier digitally. Well, we'll do our best. Okay, so, and then I think, all right, there was like a, oh, you know what we could do is we could have the pauldron kind of pull up over the arm and just see the arm through it. That might make sense. I'm going to give some like little tips and curves to the edges of the armor because they remind me kind of like leaves. And she's a druid. So I want to try and make it look a little bit more elven because the armor looks interesting, but it doesn't really look delicate. And I think that's kind of a vibe she's going for. All right. And let's pull that up. I think she had it looking a little bit like a shirt almost in the reference she sent. And then I'm just going to double check her reference for the dress for clothing underneath the armor. It looks like the character is wearing gloves, but she didn't say anything about gloves. So I don't think this character is wearing gloves. So it looks like she doesn't have sleeves. And this is sort of like a high-necked dress with like patterning going on over here. And I guess that's all we're going to see. I'm going to use some of the belt that I'm seeing, but I'm just going to rough it out because I don't want to copy someone else's work. So I'm going to do a really rough, vague idea of what I'm seeing and then just sort of make up the rest as I go along. Plus then it's fun. I get to be original. And I'm not just copying different pieces of reference that this person saw. And she said she wanted a high-low dress. So I'm just kind of indicating the rough vibe, but I don't think I'm going to draw on her legs or anything. All right. All right, I think this is working. Just triple checking this, making sure there's nothing important I'm missing. And then when I color, I'll go back to the description again and just make sure. Face shape, blonde wavy hair with braids and flowers, tall, delicate hourglass figure. I feel like a lot of these are a little contradictory, so I hope this is what she's looking for. Okay, okay, I think we're good. I'm gonna exit out of my reference now, and I'm gonna kind of make up the rest of this based on this basic shape. So I'm gonna start by giving the armor. I'm drawing with my dark pencil because it encourages me not to use my eraser. And this part is inventive. It doesn't have to have a right or wrong to it. All right, I gave her kind of big boobs because she asked for an hourglass character or an hourglass figure, but you don't have to give your characters big boobs if you don't want to. It's not anime. I just don't want people to feel like female character it has to fall into the stereotype by a lot of shows that aren't very realistic. But if you want it to, that's also perfectly fine. Build your character however you want to. All right, I just want to make sure that it all matches. So I'm going to add these lips of the armor. Okay. So I think, let's see if this curves out, and I can add like a little up onto this, then I can add like some segmented plates so that she can kind of twist and move in the armor. Otherwise, I think it's going to be really hard to move in something like this since it goes all the way around her. And I'm going to sort of curve this back and maybe give it some extra overlaps. I'm not sure how I feel about that line. Maybe not. Maybe we'll erase it later. Trying to think of like some sort of calming plant shapes. I don't think she said the color of the crystalline armor. Crystalline breastplate armor. Nope, that's it. So I get to make up the color too, which is nice. Okay. So I feel like she's a druid. These are probably going to like work together to create some sort of like druidic knotwork or maybe some druidic leaf shape. So I feel like if this comes to the center line, maybe there's like a gap here where the segments are, and then the line kind of continues. And this here is technically one piece, but it just sort of follows the line work to make it look like it's not. So then these would come in like this. And then we could maybe have like maybe some flowers etched into it or some leaves. Like this kind of works because leaves tend to follow a regular pattern. We could have them kind of evenly spaced. And then we could go with like a green theme for her or something. And then I don't want to put a flower on her boobs or anything because I think that's a little crude, but I do think maybe we could put like a flower up here or something, or maybe just some sort of symbolic, a little graphic flower. Yeah, that could work. I don't know. Maybe I'll just keep the front clear. I don't know, because the reference she sent me was very clearly like a female body with like some sort of cleared crystalline exoskeleton over it. And usually when I do armor, I draw armor kind of like the same way it's built as opposed to something that really looks just like a shirt that emphasizes your figure. So I'm a little new to the kind of armor that she wants. So I'm kind of exploring here. If anyone has a suggestion, feel free to throw something out. I kind of like the idea of these segments though. I'm going to continue with this. This is kind of working. I feel more comfortable with the different plating. Right, I want to make sure that it comes out a little bit from the silhouette. Okay, that kind of works. I feel like that's a little more functional because now she can sort of bend back and forth if it goes all the way around her body. I don't know how she's going to get it on. Maybe the plates snap off. You have to like like push and pull or something to get them off, and then she can get out of the armor sideways or something, like a side zipper almost. I when I draw things, it's important to me to know kind of like how they work. Otherwise, it's a little bit annoying. So I'm just trying to figure out what the functionality is. And I think functionality is also a really good way to world build. This part's feeling empty. I wonder if maybe or maybe we could put like some extra flowers here or something, since this is decoration on the side. That kind of works. Okay. So I do think, let's see, she has a belt, which the sort of low slung belt is part of another reference that she sent me. I think this character is definitely going for like innocent sexy, at least based on what she told me she was going for, what she showed me. So I'm kind of trying to follow that vibe and still be creative with it. But also sending fantasy art of female characters as a reference. So much of fantasy art for women is just drawn overtly sexy. It's kind of hard to know sometimes. When you're drawing anything that's flat, like a belt, all you have to do is like draw some S's like this, and then you can draw a line down each of the parts that pull out like this, and just continue it. And you basically get a ribbon. And then if you give some width to that ribbon, then there you go, that's your belt. It's called a pipe fold. There are like 5 different kinds of folds, maybe 6, and a pipe fold is one of them. And it's used for any fabric that is hanging or draping or twisting. All right. I'm gonna have this come up and then just have some fabric drape over it. It looks like she had, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what the general shape of what I drew earlier, but I don't want to look at my reference again because I don't want to grab from someone else's work. So I think this is what I was going for. Like she had some like spare cloth or something. So if that's the case, maybe I would see this a little bit more. Oh, you know what? Maybe instead of, because I'm realizing she doesn't have a lot of places to put things. She doesn't have pockets. So she's wearing a dress, although dresses should all have pockets, honestly. It's a fantasy world. I'm assuming dresses have pockets. Let's give her a little belt pouch here instead of just some randomly draped cloth. We can do that on the other side, maybe. Belt pouches are great. I wish they were fashionable. I would totally wear one. Okay, there we go. Maybe she has some good berries in there or something. All right, and a couple folds to this. Realizing being a little hodgepodge about it. I'm not quite sure what it is. I guess it's just like a rag, or maybe she grabbed like some of her dress. If it had ripped or something, she pulled it up. Pockets do need to be everywhere. Okay. And then I think the bottom of her armor would probably come out here because I've given everything else like a little bit of a point. I want to give this a little bit of a point. And from there, we'll have her high-low dress. Okay, so if this is her leg, this is her other leg, kind of pointing straight out. I'm just sort of roughing out where the rest of her body is so that it feels like the dress is hanging on something that's tangible and realistic, so she doesn't just feel like a floating torso. Can do a few folds sort of coming around here. And then now that I've drawn this zigzag, I'm just going to draw a ton of pipe folds. Anything with drapery is going to have a pipe fold or a drop fold. That's what they're called sometimes. And they would be angled directly upwards, yes. Since her leg is against this and they aren't draping backwards like a lot, there's not going to be a huge amount of fold. And some of these are going to actually, some of these should move in towards the character, because this is where the fold or the crease is sort of coming from. All right, and we'll just do that on the same side and we'll be ready to paint. Oh, look, and it's exactly 3 o'clock. She could always be a ghost. However, I feel like the character would not be as happy with that, or the player may not be as happy with that. So again, this is for the Artena stream, which is a long-term campaign. It's a 5e homebrew, and it's going to start Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And then after this, we're going to be doing this character. We're going to be painting for an hour. We're going to be doing a second character. And then after that, we have Chaos Curiosities with Kristen at 6 p.m. Friday, we are doing a Last Masquerade one-shot. You want to tune in for that. My art will not be on display for that, but there will be a lot of fun role play, and the actors often dress up for their roles. And I'm going to be doing Watercolor Wizardry today, and then I'm actually moving to the East Coast, so there's going to be a little bit of a break. And then it's going to start up on Tuesdays again and be pretty consistent, hopefully. As I do character art for the campaign that I'm going to be running, which starts in July and is also a 5e homebrew campaign. Currently, it's just called Amalia because that's the name of the world, but we're working on a name. All right. So now I'm going to look at the description again and just see if she specified any colors. I don't go off of colors on character art that people send me or other fantasy art that people send me, because again, I just don't feel comfortable copying other people's work. But if they specify a color in their description, I will go off of that. So she wants fair, rosy skin, green eyes, blonde hair. Okay, the breastplate is green. And that's it. Okay, so I know the breastplate is green, eyes are green, hair is blonde, and she's white. Okay. I'm going to exit out of my reference again, and let's go ahead and get started on painting. So usually skin tones are just a light shade of brown. And if you're white, they're just a very, very, very light shade of brown. But you're still going to use all of the primary colors to create the skin tone. So I'm going to be using red, yellow, and blue to create the skin tone. And I'm going to start off with, I have some like pink mixed in over here already. I want to start with this pink, which is just red with some white added to it. And I do like adding white for my skin. I know some artists, kind of think black and white should be outlawed and they're a little bit of a faux pas, but I find that they really tend to change saturation. And if you do a skin tone without adding white, you're going to get a very, very saturated skin tone, which is interesting for like a given look, but not something that I particularly am interested in. So let's add a little bit of blue. A little bit of blue goes a long way. It's the strongest primary color. You want to add more yellow, a medium amount of red, and a tiny amount of blue if you're ever going to get like an mid-tone, like medium brown, just because blue is a much stronger color and then red is a strong color. Yellow is overpowered incredibly easily, and you kind of have to add a lot of it to sort of make up for any other colors that you put in. And I'm just going to take a little bit of that and I'm going to mix it with this pink mix that I've got over here, because I don't think that if she's really rosy cheeked, I don't think she's going to go too far away from pink. There's not going to be a ton of brown mixed in. So I'm going to go ahead and just cover everything except for the eyes, because the whites of the eyes are not skin tone. And she's looking a little too brown. So I'm going to bring in some bright red and just sort of tap that in. And then I'm going to just take water on my brush. I'm going to spread around the brown that's already here. And the more you dilute it, the paler the character is going to look. And it should work just fine. And I can go over the mouth. That's fine. I can go over the tattoos. Oh my gosh, I just realized I didn't draw her shirt. I'm glad I noticed now. All right, so we'll just go in and do her face and hands, and then go back to drawing her shirt. So color zones of the face. The bottom of the face is usually blue. So it's the primary colors. The middle of the face is usually red, and the top of the face is usually yellow. And these are just light tints that you can add on to instantly give your character some depth. So for example, if I take some red and I tap it into these rosy cheeks, which is then going to dilute itself to some extent. And when I take away my brush, it's because I'm adding water or dabbing off something that I don't want to be there. Watercolor, you kind of have to lay in while it's wet. So I'm trying to change things around and have as much control as possible over how the paint is laid down, because I won't be able to change it later on. All right, and I'll grab a little bit of yellow, and I'll just sort of emphasize some yellow tones in the face before the face falls. And we see some shadow, and then you can go blue for the colors on the bottom. With women, I tend to go a little bit more olive green. Otherwise, it's going to feel kind of like a 5 o'clock shadow, which we do not want. So I'm going to go through and just really emphasize the shadow of that cheekbone, because that seemed like something she wanted. She wanted an angular face that was also heart-shaped. So to get that heart shape, I have to make the cheeks kind of big. But for that angular sense, I can still give her some dark shadows or some high contrast shadows. And it should still give the impression that her face is angular to an extent. They're kind of contrasting descriptions. So I'm hoping this is what she meant. All right. All right. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to make the skin over here a little bit darker. I think she's still going to be very pale. She's just looking a little ghosty. All right. And then something that you can do, which I like to do, it's a stylistic thing, is you can add like tones of red where the joints are, where the tips of things are. So for example, the tips of the ears, I went over red. The tips of the fingers, I'm also going to be going over with red. Just like the way it looks. I can also add a little bit of red by the elbow. Oh, and then we talked about doing like some green tipped fingers with Druid craft. So I'm going to take some of this olive that I was using on her face, and I'm just going to tap it into this finger, and then pull this out a little bit. There we go, and I can give her something to look at. So I'm using very light pressure, and I do not have very much water on my brush at all. I don't have too much pigment either, honestly. One thing I think I might do for the armor, which will take a tiny bit to set up, is I have these pearlescent watercolors that you can lay over things. I got these from Mido, one of my favorite stores. So I have a greenish opal, or greenish pearlescent sheen. So I'm just going to go over here and I'm just going to take my pipette. And for the green opal, I'm just going to coat it in water so that it'll be wet and ready to mix in a little while. And I want to make sure that I kind of lay that over the armor as I paint it to make it feel a little bit more pearlescent and shiny and yada yada. Okay. A few things I want to do with the face before I move on is I want to paint the lips. So usually your upper lip is going to be turned a little downward and your bottom lip is going to be turned a little upward facing the light. So usually your top lip is a little bit darker than your bottom lip. So I'll draw that in as such. And then I will draw in a slightly brighter bottom lip. And I'm using the same color that I used for her blush because your lip color usually has some of your natural skin tone color in it. So if you use different colors, it can make the character look like they're wearing lipstick. She does look a little bit like she's wearing lipstick, but I'm trying to make her feel a little bit cherubic since the character is supposed to be like delicately innocent. And usually if you emphasize, whatever. I don't know enough about makeup to actually speak intelligently on that. So I'm going to go do a lecture about it. All right. And I'm going to go pretty dark for the back of the mouth. Don't be afraid to go dark here. And I want to make sure that I change colors for the tongue, but not by a lot. All right. Maybe that's a little too close to the lip color. There we go. Okay, that's fine. All right, whites of the eyes. Usually we go for like a cool off-white, which I have a little bit over here. I have some blue that was on top of my white. I'll just grab that. Paint that in. And then I have like some pre-mixed sort of muddy yellow over here. I'm going to go a little darker with that. I'm going to mix it with this purple to get like a deep brown. And usually brows are a little bit darker than the hair anyway. But I like giving character darker brows if possible because it emphasizes the expression. And then going for the scar, I'm going to take a little bit of this skin tone color. I'll add a tiny bit of purple and pink to it. Is that reading as a scar? Maybe not. Maybe I need to lift it up a little, do more of a flesh tone. All right, I think if I lift it up a little bit, it leaves a color and it seems like a distinct shape. I hope it reads okay. All right. Let's do skin tone for the other arm. And then since this is semi-transparent armor, I also want to put our skin tone underneath the armor at some point. Oh, I'm so sorry. The camera should be working again. My brother tried to call me, so the camera cut off. I'm so sorry. There we go. Wait, no, it's still sideways. Okay, I think that's working now. I'm sorry. Usually when I do time-lapse videos, I have my phone on airplane mode, but because I need to be on Zoom, I run the risk of being interrupted. Maybe knowing Kat, she probably has like some function that I'm not using that can stop that. Talk to her afterwards. And then again, going in with the pink, adding this on the tips of the fingers. Up a little bit here. And then I'll go in and darken the thumb a little bit. Usually when something is behind or in front of something else, it helps to darken the thing that's behind or lighten the thing that's in front, or at least just change the tone a little bit so that you can tell that they're not on the same plane. Right. Just adding a little bit of purple, which I think would just kind of darken the pink. I might need to wait until that's more dry, actually. Okay. I'm kind of liking how this is turning out, though. Let's go through and I'm going to take some of the skin color and just go back and sort of emphasize some of these little creases in the hands and some of these lines so that it looks more like a watercolor line and less like a pencil line. I do like that my pencil work shows through in general, so I don't usually completely cover it. But I can go back and like just add a few extra colors to make it feel a little bit more lively. Generally speaking, if your line art is grayscale, it just doesn't look quite as alive or vibrant. So if you go back and you just kind of play around with it and you tint it ever so slightly, that usually helps make it feel a little bit more alive. When I'm doing digital characters, I usually do colored line art that's like a little bit more saturated and a little bit darker than whatever color I'm coloring with currently. And it works pretty well. Right, so going in and there's the inside. And Kat recommended this white pen to me that I'm going to try maybe for some of the highlights here. Okay. So while we wait for that to dry, let's quickly figure out what her shirt looks like because I completely forgot about that. All right. Let's see if it's high necked and she has like this kind of flower pattern coming up. Maybe it would continue with flowers, but maybe it would just be slightly different. Like maybe we'd be like, see some vine patterning or something. I like the idea of like some sort of like Art Nouveau-esque plant shape. And I want to make sure I just trace her center line real fast to know where it's coming from. I'm just going to go with sort of like a semi-abstract plant inspired symmetrical shape, which I know is not super specific. I do a lot of like kind of stream of consciousness art for patterning. I actually quite like making patterns. It's quite fun. I have an account on Spoonflower and I do a lot of like fabric licensing and selling fabric patterns. And I usually try and keep them fairly simple because I've noticed if you go really complex with the drawing on a repeating pattern or on something that you're going to use for clothes, it doesn't work as well because it's part of something larger. And I think you detract a little bit from it. You kind of have to make the piece all about the fabric pattern if you want to do that. So I'll have like a few little circles just because the character is soft and sort of like has this childlike wonder. I think her shape language is going to be either curved or circular. Circular shapes, shape language wise, are usually, you know, like friendly or unassuming or helpful, you know, like the childlike shape. The more curved something is, the less threatening it looks. So even if she's an ultra powerful druid, based on the description she gave me, I get the feeling that like her vibe would be like, oh, she wouldn't hurt a fly until she transforms into a bear and eats you. So I'm going to try and go with that and give her a lot of circular shape language. I'm just mixing up a gold here for her earrings because I want to get her face out of the way as much as possible so I don't forget anything that I have to then go back to. The brush is not pointed enough. It's got too much ink on it. You need to have a very, very precise pointed brush for little details. You know what I'll do? I'll just do a dipping pen. That makes way more sense. There we go. Some little gold pieces. Okay. I do have like a metallic gold watercolor that I like using for jewelry. It's very fun. Okay, we got to do her eyes too. Okay, so her eyes, she said emerald green. So we'll mix up some green. I'll put it over the pencil. I tend not to overemphasize eyes very much. Since it seems important to her character, I'll paint it in. And then I'll go in with some black watercolor. Usually for my really dark darks, like black watercolor, I'll use either that or I might use a micron actually, just for the eye. I got a 005 over here. Microns are great because they're waterproof. So if I want to do this earlier on, all I have to do is draw it in. I don't have to worry about it smudging if I paint over it. And I know that she doesn't have dark hair, and technically her lashes would not be dark. And also it doesn't make a ton of sense, but I really want to make sure that characters' eyes get emphasized since it's a very important part of how we read facial expressions. And I will go back through and I'll give her like some blonde eyelashes or something, just to emphasize that she has blonde hair. But I do think just making the eyes pop out is important. We come in with some blonde lashes. That works just fine. And then trying to figure out what color tattoos she should have. I feel like maybe just like a natural color, like maybe like a brown or something, because I'm trying to think of like what they would tattoo her with. And black tattoos are popular, but black dye isn't often found in nature. So she probably, and maybe I'm over analyzing because I don't know anything about her backstory, but I'm thinking about like where she could have gotten her tattoos. And if they were made with plant dye, if she made them in the forest, if they were given to her by other druids, if these are druidic tattoos, which is what she said, I'm assuming they probably would not have used chemicals. They would have used something natural. And then maybe the magic would have taken hold and made the tattoos feel a little bit more permanent. So we're gonna go for like a greenish brown, because I think like, you know, if you pound up plants, I'm sure you can get some more vivid colors too. But since she didn't give a color specification for the tattoo, I want to go a little bit neutral. But instead of brown or black, we're going to do brown, greenish brown. All right, that's looking fine. Oh, she says either the Druid Grove or in the Feywild. Okay, so yeah, that feels like a place to get natural plant dye tattoos. Okay, and honestly, like you really can't tell the color super easily anyway. She's got tattoos here, here. I just need to make sure I make her hair light enough that the tattoos aren't mistaken for hair. And here. All right. Okay, I think that works. There we go. And then we'll do that same color for the snake tattoo. I think that kind of fits. Snakes are often kind of greenish brown. The coloring fits her. All right, and since she has these rosy cheeks and we have a green theme and red and green are complements, let's go with like a red and green theme for her outfit / armor. I know the armor has a green tint. Let's do like, one second, I'm gonna re-wet this and add some rosiness to her shoulders too. Let's go with maybe a pale pink, because I think if you do like bright red and green, it kind of screams Christmas a little bit too much, unfortunately. So we'll go for like a pale, like I'll make a pastel pink. We'll do a nice pastel. Make it from that same blush color. And it'll kind of feel like it fits with her. We'll start by doing some little, like for the druid craft she's making, we can do a little pink bud here. You could put it on the armor. Be nice to give her a color palette. I'll start by painting in some of these little flowers over here, like her rose. Watercolor is a layering medium, so usually what you do is you paint in the lightest color, and then you go in and you glaze on top of it. So not all of this is going to end up the same shade of pink, but I'm going to start with it like that. All right. And I'll do some pale green. Some of these. Use some dark green for the stems. Play around with it, mix it up. I want it to feel really sort of non-threatening, very pleasant. Kind of dive into that innocent vibe that she wants. Oh. We should be about halfway done at this point, which might be a little less than halfway done. I'll try and speed up. Characters who have more accessories or more particular things about them sometimes take a little bit longer. I already have like a kind of nice desaturated yellow here, and she said pale wavy blonde hair. So I'm going to start by, again, laying in a wash of where I think the lightest color of hair would be. And then I'll go back in and layer this with darker things. Trying to avoid some of the flowers I set in. Oh, and she's got beads too. I'll have to think of some bead colors. Anyone have any suggestions for bead colors? Watercolor is more forgiving than ink, where if you go over something enough, it'll reawaken and you can kind of smudge it. So I'm just smudging away this area where I went outside of her face by mistake. I think this area is kind of here to stay. Usually when I'm working on commissions that are going to be mailed out, I keep the palette far away from me so that I can't smudge it with my hand very easily. But for this, it doesn't matter. They're going to be scanned. It's digital versions that I'm sending out. This is actually done in my sketchbook, which is not perforated, so they're stuck in here anyway. Maybe someday we'll do like a Ko-fi tier where you get to keep the art afterwards. And then I would have to switch to putting it somewhere else. All right. I think I'm trying to think. I know some blondes have darker hair and lighter hair, and I'm forgetting if they have lighter hair at the top or lighter hair at the bottom. I think they have lighter hair at the bottom, right? Because it grows out darker and then it gets like sun bleached. So maybe we'll keep it lighter down here and I'll go a little darker toward the top. All right, blue. Yeah. We can do some blue beads. Maybe we'll do some sort of like pastel blue or some desaturated blue. All right, there we go. Let's go through. Let's see. Here's some nice kind of grayish blue. I think that'll fit. Some blue beads here, here, and here. I feel like maybe blue doesn't go with her aesthetic. Maybe the beads have like sentimental meaning to her. Or maybe she kind of likes it in nature. A lot of things are like a couple colors, and then there's like a pop of one color. I'll do like a yellowish orange for the other colors since they're complementary. I just don't want to make the entire thing blue because then it would be harder to tell they were beads. But if I do a few little dots, it makes it a little more clear. All right, she's got green armor. I don't want the green to look bad. So if it's translucent, it would be the color of the shirt throughout, or the color of the dress throughout. And then the translucent armor would go on top and only be visible like up here would be a raw color. So It could be green. So blue or yellow needs to be the color of the dress. And I think if her hair is already yellow, maybe she wouldn't keep her. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. She has blue beads. Let's give her like a blue dress. And then when we coat the green on top of it, it'll kind of fit. Oh, that's great. Sentimental beads work with the backstory. Look at me, I'm a genius. All right. Give her a blue dress. Can I go in with this color? I have a decent amount of this color so that I can come back and continue mixing with it. Since I did a really, really light wash of the hair, it's already almost dry, so I can go right into it. When you're working with watercolor, you want to make sure that you don't accidentally let something bleed into something else, especially if one color is especially light, because that light color is going to get overpowered and sort of taken over, and you're going to get like a kind of messy streak. All right. We'll have the color here. I guess it just continues through the armor. Although I think where the lip of the armor is, kind of around the edges, the armor might be thicker there. But I guess it would still be translucent. So what I'll probably do is paint everything this color and then go back and just do like multiple layers of green over it. And then really come in with the highlighter brush and really play around with having a ton of highlights. I guess it could also use masking fluid, but I think white pens are a little bit more fun. They leave these fun opaque streaks on things. They feel a little more like artsy. But when I say artsy, I mean like textural, like there's extra texture and like it feels like there's more paint or more things that are physically going into something. We'll go through this and then I'll come back through and I'll paint in the shadows later. And I'm just going to keep the part that the armor is over pretty light. I took an initial wash and then I'm just continuing to add water, just like I did with the skin, just to make the armor go over it a little bit easier. I want to give an indication that there was blue here and I want it to mix well. But I don't want it to overpower the green because she did specify she wanted the armor to be green and I don't want to mess this up for her because she probably has a very specific aesthetic in mind. So I want the green to be very clearly shown. All right, while we wait for that, let's go through and let's do some shadow colors on the hair. So usually the top and bottom of the hair, or the inside, outside of the hair, will have a few different shades. I'm going to go kind of dark. You can actually go close to brown with blonde, and as long as the whites stay, or the lights stay pretty light, you can go pretty dark. Like I can go light brown with this and it'll still read as blonde. And then I'll go through and I'll just add in some more yellow. Can fade it out slowly. There we go. It just reads as a shadow color. Sorry, my nose is like really itchy. I keep realizing I'm like scratching my nose on stream. I don't know where you guys are. I'm in LA and it is very hot here today. I have the window open, thank goodness, which I'm in a room that gets a decent breeze when there is one. Right now, there is not one. And I'm going to start with some darker colors and then just sort of fade them out to keep the overall aesthetic pretty light. That kind of works. Thanks, Kat. just going through it. I'm trying not to be consistent deliberately with where the darks and lights are because I want them to kind of fade in and out and look like sort of natural highlights. I am trying to be consistent about the shade of dark that I'm using so that it has the same warmth or coolness mixed in. Otherwise, it's going to feel like it's dyed. There we go. And notice that even though all of these colors are not blonde, some are brown, although it is a yellowy brown. As long as you have the majority of the colors and the highlight colors, the shade that the hair is, it's going to read as just shading. Oftentimes, actually, shadows will have the complement color of the light source or of the local color. So for example, yellow or blonde would have purple-ish shadows. You can probably get away with that. And the more extreme or stylized your art style is, the more it kind of fits. Go ahead, I'll add a little bit here. I want to keep it pretty light down here. Make it feel kind of sun bleached. And I fade it out a little, maybe toward the back, have a little bit of darkness here or something. All right. I'll just go in, color her braid a little bit, and we'll be all done. Okay, and there's her hair all finished. So she's pretty much good to go in a bit. I'm going for like a kind of warm brown because it feels a little friendlier and she's got a lot of warm colors going on. Not the blue, obviously, but I'm going to go for like a warm kind of earthy green, and her hair and plant colors are a little warm. Can actually go for the same color as like part of her hair. All right, so after this, we'll go in, we'll do shadows on the cloth for her dress, and then we'll go through and do the armor, and then we'll be all finished. So for anybody watching, I do commissions. I do digital commissions for character art, and I do pen and watercolor commissions. Usually I converse with the player back and forth beforehand, and they send me any reference they want me to go off of, and the rest I just kind of make up. They're on 8 by 10 inch pieces of watercolor paper, and I mail them to you. This one is done in my sketchbook. It's a little bit different. I'm not being quite as careful with the paper, as you can see. You can find that on my Etsy site, which is linked through mariaoglesbyart.com. To give you an idea of what else is happening on Rainbows and Razor Blades, I'm going to be doing watercolor wizardry after I'm finished moving. So starting up again last week of June, I believe, is the next one where I'm going to do the last 2 characters for the Artena campaign, which, by the way, starts Monday at 5 p.m. And then I'm going to be doing watercolor wizardry pretty regularly. I'm going to be doing PCs from my campaign, which is a 5e homebrew campaign that will be running Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time, starting in July. And it's going to be an all-girls game, which I'm very excited about. Usually there are so many men. It's like such a male-dominated game. I'm excited for the change in energy. Yeah, and Kristen gets to play, which for that game she will actually be going as Chris because even though we are only 5 players, there are somehow 2 Kristens and a Crimson. So there are going to be a couple people with nicknames on that stream. We're very excited for it. Rainbows and Razor Blades also has Kristen doing Chaos Curiosities at 6 p.m. tonight. So right when I'm finished with the art stream, if you want to stick around, Kristen's going to be world building for her game because she also DMs quite a few things. Just finishing shading in the belt, and then we'll move on to shading the clothes. She's also, I don't know if she's DMing this or if this is someone else DMing, but there's going to be a Masquerade one-shot Friday at 6 p.m., which I don't know what they mean by Masquerade, but it sounds very fun. I love, one of my favorite D&D tropes is like when the characters have to dress up for a fancy party and then do shenanigans somewhere. I think every D&D campaign I've run has had that to some extent, and the homebrew campaign I will be starting actually starts with that. It's going to be a bunch of mercenaries posed as politicians for the first few sessions until the players do something unexpected, and it of course falls apart. Yes, Kristen is running the Friday night game. Oh, that sounds fun. You literally get to build stuff. I haven't done a lot of cooperative world building games, but I've heard a lot of really good things about them. A friend of mine, I don't know what game it is, but they were telling me about a game where it's like super cooperative where the DM will like describe something, and then if the player like describes a detail, that detail is like then part of the world. And I think there are certain places where you're supposed to world build and where you can't, so that it doesn't like get kind of insane. But it sounded like a lot of fun. I don't know if you guys are familiar with whatever that is. My experience is mostly just D&D, and then I'm also a writer / artist, which actually fits in very well to D&D. And then there's also a cyberpunk game starting the 17th that Kristen is running. And on the 16th, one of our Rainbows and Razor Blades associates named Chad, his game starts. Is that the one that's like alternate version of the US, and it's like Art Nouveau tanks and stuff? All right, then we'll go on with colors and start shading. So for colors, usually the shadow color of something is going to be less saturated, and it's also going to be darker. It can be tinted one way or another. For example, I can do kind of dark blue shadows, but I added a tiny bit of orange to the shadow because usually the shadow is tinted the complement color. So I added just a little bit of orange into the blue. Makes it feel a little bit more realistic. I'm very interested to see like when this game actually starts, how accurate I was to the character. Because I have like a voice, not necessarily like a character voice, but like kind of like a vibe for everyone that I've painted so far. I'm interested to see if it kind of fits. It's funny because I was looking at like all of the character descriptions that the campaign sent me. And I was thinking of like, oh, how is everyone going to work out together? And 3 people described their character as having like a cocky or sly smile. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be a lot of like charismatic personalities like screwing each other over. I'm excited to see if that's how it ends up working out or how people interact, or if it's different than that. Which the character we're doing next is one of those characters with a cocky smile. So I've been looking up a bunch of different cocky or sly smiles, trying to get like a range so the characters feel different. So what I'm doing here is I feel like there was more fabric in the bottom here, and she gathered some of it up, and you can see some of the tension lines here, and it's coming around and looped over her belt so that she can walk more easily. and have her legs free. So that's kind of what I'm going for. You can't see the whole dress, so I guess it's not super clear. And I'm not doing a turnaround. A turnaround is when you draw a character like from the front, back side, and 3/4 view in the same outfit, so that people can get an idea for like what they look like from every angle. But that's a little extra for a D&D character. Usually it's for something that's going to be animated or for like a character design for a show or something. I'm working on some now. I'm doing like a graphic novel pitch and I'm trying to do turnarounds for my characters and it takes forever. Okay. All right. I'm just going to sort of drop in some shadow shapes. I don't want to draw a huge amount of attention to these little floral shapes on the dress because I think the armor is supposed to be the thing that takes up the most attention. So I want to be kind of sparing. But I'll go in with like some shadow shapes. I don't want them to be just like little embroidery designs. Like I want them to feel a little more significant. We're not going to go overboard with it. We're not going to make it a different color or anything. All right. Oh, thank you, Hermes. All right. So I think this is it for the outfit. So now we're going to go for the armor. Let's see how this works out. Okay, I'm going to take in some sort of lime colors. I'm going to mix them over here along with some other darker greens. And I'm going to start by just going over the whole thing with lime and then slowly getting darker as we get to places that would not be highlighted. And I think it'll end up with just the highlights being lime. It's not going to all be this garish. I tend to go for much more desaturated, sort of like earthy colors in general. So this will be the last watercolor wizardry for a little while since I am moving cross country. But the next one should be the last week in June, assuming that I have all of my stuff and the movers don't lose things. We can get them packed in time and everything. So I love watercolor as a layering medium because I can just paint the skin tone in and then I can paint on top of it. Whereas if I was doing like acrylic or oil, I'd have to figure out what that color was and then paint it in. So since you can only see the armor through this little area and there's like a gap here, I'm going to make the color a little bit more opaque because you wouldn't be seeing, I mean, you'd be seeing whatever the background is behind it, but I'm not painting in the background, assuming she's on a white background. Oh, good. I'm glad you like it. Keep an eye on the chat, but I'm also trying to keep an eye on the time and finish this. I'm spending a lot of time just looking at that, at the painting. But I'll look through the chat in a sec. Does anybody have any like questions about painting? Or I don't know if the player who's playing this character is on stream, but any comments you want to make? Anything? I mean, I guess it's a little bit late in the game, but I could change some colors a little bit if there's something that you weren't happy with. I've got some little pink flowers. Let's do, that's it. Yes, moving cross country is crazy. I don't know what we're thinking. We are moving to North Carolina from Los Angeles. I'm just waiting for this to dry a little bit more because I don't want to go in with a shadow color while it's still drying, because then it's going to sort of bleed around and I need some crisp lines for this. So I'm just going to wait a minute. I'll go through and I'll read some of the chat. Okay, players on stream. Ooh, Nerd and Wheel. Okay, well, I'm so glad you like it, Nerd and Wheel. I don't want to mention real names on stream. I did read what your real name was, but I'm not sure how private people are. I'm very new to streaming, so I'm not really sure what is socially appropriate. All right, let's go in with some shadow colors here. And then I'll kind of wash some other colors over it. Try and leave like some, I guess, bright spots or something. We'll see how that works. Maybe we'll start by adding in like some shadow colors just in really specific spots. Like around the edging here. And I'm assuming like maybe there's a little bit of change in how high or low something is placed. So maybe there are a few areas that are deliberately darker. And then over that, I'll try and add like some window-esque vibes or something. I definitely want there to be some shadows under the plating. So what we're probably going to do is I will finish this. And then we are going to take like a 5-minute break so that I can like use the bathroom and drink some water. And I will also scan this and upload it. And Rainbows and Razor Blades may post it somewhere, or you may have to wait until Monday to see the different character arts. And then after that, I'll just flip to my next page and we'll start with username Skagwater's piece. His smiling character. What do you think, Nerd and Wheel? Should the flower or the plant design on the armor, should that be green too, or do you want a different color? I was debating whether we should go like pink. I don't know how well it would show up though. Okay, so she'll make a collage of these when they're all done and share them. So I'm hoping I just by like leaving some of these like kind of bright, some of them dark, it'll come off as like reflections, like some sort of shininess. Maybe. Anyway, I'm gonna block in. I guess I haven't heard back, so we'll just go green for some of the shading. Okay. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna put this pearlescent sheen over it, and then I'm gonna go over it with some white highlights, and then she'll be all finished. And it's bleeding a little bit, I think, because it's not 100% dry from that wash I just put down. I'm kind of betting that when I go over with the pearlescent color, you're not going to be able to see it quite as well. So I don't think it's a big deal. that's everything for her. All right, let's go in with this pearlescent color. Ooh, which is super goopy. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so much off. I don't want to be like opaque with it. I do want to be very thick with it though, because it is supposed to be like shiny. Oh, maybe that is a lot. Okay, I'm gonna take some off. To be kind of sparing with it to make sure it stays transparent. But I do like how shimmery it is. I don't even know if you can see that on there. In person, it's like extremely sparkly. But I'm not sure how well that's going to translate as a scan or how well it's going to come off on stream. But I'll hold it up and I'll like tilt it back and forth in a minute so you can see. She's getting just like a sort of gossamer pearlescent coating over the armor. And then I might go back in and add some more shadows on top of it because I think it is knocking back the shadows a little bit too much. And then we'll go in with that white pen. Oh, hi, Heather Kristen. All right, so here you can see shiny. I'm just waiting for it to dry for a sec. Mix up some more of that shadow color. Yes, I love the shiny too. It's fun to get a sparkly character I can play with these because a lot of things don't necessarily call for sparkles. All right, we've got like just a minute left. I'm gonna try and block these in really quick. Maybe just like shadows here, and then it'll be fine. I don't know, it's magic armor. It doesn't have to have super serious shading. And as soon as I finish this, we'll take our break. I'm just gonna pull out a couple dark areas that I want to stand out. And then Kat recommended this Jelly Roll white gel pen, which I have not used yet. I usually use the, what are they called? Signo ballpoints for white ink. So we'll see how that fares. I might try a couple different things, see what looks better. Okay, I think she's done. And all right, and this is the pen that she recommended. It's a just Jelly Roll white ballpoint or white gel pen. And I just want to grab a few areas. Oh shoot. Maybe that it's still a little too wet. Maybe the pen's jammed. Sometimes that happens. Oh no, there's some coming out. Okay. A little bit of this. I'll try both and see what's working. I just want to pull out a couple areas that feel firmly lit by highlight. These are not burning with me though. You should grab some like white ink for the next one. We'll see. Oh, there's some red on this one. That's why it was acting weird. And now it's not working. Well, maybe it doesn't need highlights. Maybe that's just a sign. right, you know what? I guess this is just how it is. I think it looks fine. I'm pretty happy with it. All right, so here's our second character. We're going to take a quick break now. I'm going to go ahead and scan this as soon as it dries, and then we'll come back in a little bit with our third character. right, and we are back. So let's get started. Let me go ahead and move that. So we're going to be drawing Skagwater's character who is in the chat. So he has, just to sort of give you an idea of the description that I received, he's got pale skin, gray eyes, a diamond-shaped face, short brown hair, chainmail, a blue fedora, and a blue jacket. And he holds a conch shell that is bright pink. He also sent me a Hero Forge mini, so I have a general idea of what the costume looks like. It looks like the chainmail. Well, he's right here. Skagwater, I'm wondering, I'm looking at your Hero Forge character. The chainmail looks a little bit more like an elaborate shirt. Do you want the chainmail showing through? Like, is he wearing a shirt over it? Are we going to see that at all? We know. And then this character also has a cocky smirk. So I looked up a few different cocky smirks and I found one that I think will work. And then I've been looking for fedora shapes that I want to play around with, but because it looks like his character is wearing a fedora. But we'll see. I have a couple thoughts on it and on sort of general pose. So we'll play around with it a little bit, but it's nice having that person in the chat. Oh, the shirt is over the armor? Okay, cool. So we'll just draw the shirt. Maybe see a little bit of the armor poking through at the top. All right. So I've got a general shape of a dude holding a phone. We're going to trade that out for a conch shell. So let's get started. I want to make sure that I have the face shape because the diamond face shape is something that he drew attention to that is important for his character. So let's go ahead and make sure we have that kind of figured out. So diamond face shape, I'm thinking like he's got kind of sharp, pointy cheekbones and sort of angular features. And I have a little bit of like a brow here, but I don't think the brow is going to be super pronounced because the cheekbone will probably make up most of that diamond. And of course, his head has to be turned down a little bit because if you have a cocky grin, you always look a little bit like, I don't know, maybe flirty, maybe like just like you're sneaking, you're thinking about something. I feel like you wouldn't look you quite straight on. Okay. And then let's see, I've got a 3/4 view. I really like 3/4 view. It's my favorite pose. So we've got a 3/4 view shoulders, and I picked someone that has kind of broad shoulders. He said his character had like lean muscle, so we won't go super buff, but we'll do some broad shoulders and we'll do a little bit of muscle there. And I want to make sure that he's not hunched, so we'll go ahead and make sure we just quickly like figure out where his rib cage is. All right. So I think if this slopes a little bit more, it'll make him look less like hunched shoulders or like bunched up shoulders. This is moving this way. All right. I want to change one arm for sure. Actually, I think the center line might be even more tilted. Here's his other pecs. All right, he'll have one hand out like this and be holding on to his shell, which seems important to him story-wise. I don't know too much else about it. What class is he? All right, so I want to make sure we emphasize some of the muscles. We've got deltoids here. We'll give him a little bit of a bicep. I don't want him to look like crazy muscular because he's not described as like super buff. We'll give him like some big arms. All right, and again, the elbow does not point straight out. It curves down and in a little bit. We're gonna pull this up and forward. And the man is looking at his phone in the picture, but we're going to change around the face a little bit so it reads differently. Slash the head. Okay, so I am going to change his thumb because I think the thumb would be gripping the conch, but the rest of the hand can stay pretty much the same. Always find reference for your drawings. It is so, so, so helpful. Even if you're going to change something, like use something real as a base. It's so useful. So I've got this, and then I have a couple pictures of people holding conch shells. So I'm going to play around between the two things and just kind of figure out what the shape of the conch is. I wonder if maybe like, because it has this bit that sort of flares out, maybe he can be holding it around this edge. Is the conch super big, Skagwater? I'm assuming it's kind of big. It seems important. So I'm just picturing it as a very large shell. So this can be sort of like the pink part over here. And then we can have some of the gaps coming in. Okay. That kind of works. All right. Sorry, ask again. Oh, I said, is the conch especially large, or should it be a little bit more closer to handheld? Oh my gosh. Okay, you're gonna get the stream interrupted in a second, but it should jump back. I'm very popular today. My mother is calling me now. Let me reorient this so that it's not vertical again. There we go. Apologize for that. Let's see. And yes, it is still lined up. And then it kind of comes to a point over here. It is pretty large. Okay. So then one hand is going to just sort of come in between these points. And then I think the other ones can curl around as if you were holding something, which should work just fine. And I do have a couple hand references that I'm looking at just to get a general idea of where things are. Huh, that's a beefy arm and a beefy hand. I feel like his head needs to be larger now. Okay, let's make his head a little bit bigger. He needs to be proportionate. All right, that makes more sense. Generally speaking, your hand should be about the size of your face, from chin to like just above the eyebrows. And if you give a character a smaller head, they'll look a little older and kind of more heroic, which is fine for a hero character. And if the character's head is larger, then they'll look a little bit more childlike or cutesy. And it's not like a hard, fast rule. It's just more of a generalization. But I do want to follow, the rules generally. Keep it within the realm of possibility. Let's see. Okay, let's go through, and I'm gonna just rotate this so I can read it okay. All right. Looks like the conch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like has like 6 of these tiers, but I don't think I'm going to draw 6. I don't think it's super important, and you'll get the idea of what it is. I'm just going to go increasingly small with these and kind of turn it into a silhouette, I think. Let me go back through and just sort of paint it in. It'll be pretty clear what this is supposed to be. All right. And I'm just going to double check Hero Forge screenshot that he sent me and make sure this character doesn't have jewelry or anything. Nope. Okay. And we'll go back to the reference. I still feel like he needs to like straighten up. We'll pull this out a little bit more. Probably because like the dude I was looking up for reference is kind of hunched. So he was looking at his phone. So we'll pull this up. Generally, the shoulders are going to sort of follow the same line. So if you have a shoulder curve here and you follow the curve, you want to make sure that your shoulders curve at the same direction on the other side. Otherwise, they're going to look a little odd. And then what class are you? I wonder, like, should we have like a hand with like something magical coming out of it maybe? I'm not sure. Well, we'll wait on that. All right, and we've got his hips over here. We'll probably go down, I think, oh, he's a warlock. That's cool. Let's put an Eldritch Blast in his hand. I'm gonna search for some reference of like a dude with their hand out in the right position, see if we can get something good. Let's see. There are a couple things we could use. Kind of like this one, which sort of has it sideways. He's got sort of his hand out. Okay, so it would come down like this, and then it would be foreshortened. And then he would have his hand out kind of like this. And we could see like maybe some building energy or like something kind of coming out of his hand. That could be kind of cool. Okay, let's do that. I'm just going to save this and I want to rotate it a little bit. So I'm going to use the magic of Photoshop just to get the reference the way I want it. I want it to be turned so that it feels like it's moving vaguely upward as opposed to sideways. All right. So I'm not going to look at the chat for a minute. Hopefully I'm not getting this horribly wrong, Skagwater. And again, I keep picking things with foreshortening, so we'll see how this goes. I might make up some of it too. Yeah. Okay. I feel like the pinky's looking a little weird. Let's have it sort of folded in. Does that kind of work? And then we can have his arm kind of coming out like this. Or does that look a little weird? It needs to be a little thicker here. And maybe we can have some like fiery eldritch shit going on. Okay. Okay, genie patron with a conch shell vessel. Okay. So maybe I'll have sort of like a ball of energy here or something and do some like sort of fiery smoky shapes coming out. I'm thinking like Aladdin genie smoke. Can I come around and emphasize this? Is his magic pink because his conch shell is pink, or is it a different color? I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this. What are your thoughts, Skagwater? Is this a yes or a no? thumb would probably have to change. That might be what's feeling a little bit off. Or maybe I would just have to raise it up. All right, we'll play around with it. I'll wait for him to answer. And then I'll go back and I'll work on the face a little bit. Maybe giving him a little bit more of a neck, a little bit more of a square jaw, although he did want like a diamond shaped face. He's a dude, he needs an Adam's apple. And we'll make his trapezius a little bit larger because I know he has some muscle, which is the muscle that kind of goes in a triangle like this. All right. My hearing. I think it's not working. I like the vibe, but I don't know if the hand shape is working. Let's, I think because maybe it would be a different angle. Like it kind of has to come, would it come up like that? Maybe? That's a little better. I don't know. I'm not super happy with it. I will reserve judgment. We'll come back to it later. If anyone has any thoughts on this hand or what it should be doing instead, let me know and we will take a look. Okay. All right, so if this is his jaw, this is going to be kind of the shape of his cheekbone over here, meaning he's going to have kind of like high, sharp cheekbones, like so. 3/4 view, if this is the center line, this is where his nose is going to start. And I'm just going to double check if there's anything in the description about his nose or anything distinctive on Hero Forge. It looks like he's got a long straight nose on Hero Forge. Not seeing anything about his nose. So we'll go ahead and give him a long straight nose. That works. All right, and of course we gotta do like a little cocky half smile. And he's got like a sneaky cocky vibe. I think he'd have pretty low brows. Kind of, I feel like with like cocky, sneaky, sexy characters, you kind of walk the line between giving them like an evil expression and an expression that just kind of like reads as their character. So we might have to kind of like play around with it because he's looking a little evil right now. And this should come in and then out. I know it's a diamond shape, but we got to be a little bit more anatomically correct. There's not usually quite this much chin. And he does not have any facial hair. So we'll leave him completely clean shaven. And I'm just going to go for like thick eyebrows because the character doesn't have to be particularly delicate and it reads as more dramatic. Keeping them kind of low. a human, so he'll have rounded ears. Let's see. How is that? Nose is up to interpretation. He mainly uses ice spells, if that helps with the hand thing. Okay, well, we'll just keep the hand as is then. People seem fine with it. Okay, we'll go with some blue magic then. And I'm going to look up the hairstyle that I was sent. Oh no. Okay. Well, oh, I see. It's not it's a .webtp file, so I can't actually open it in Photoshop. One sec. I have to screenshot it and then drag the screenshot, but I'm just trying to flip it real quick. Okay. Let's go back and, oh, it's not your fault. It's often when you like drag things directly from Google, they're not always editable files. Okay, so the hair kind of goes in his eyes like this and then gets shorter. I'm not sure about this haircut. Okay, well, this is kind of what was in the reference photo. Is this what you were thinking? Something kind of like that. And then we'll give him like a hair up here. I think maybe it feels a little weird for me because it's a more modern cut and it's like a old-timey D&D character holding magic in a shell. But let me know what you're thinking. Let's see. I could also give him a little bit more up top just to make his skull a little higher because I think that might be part of it. Maybe just need to be a little more skull here. Yeah, let me know what you think of that. If you like it, we'll continue with it. I'm feeling a little uncertain about it, so let's get, since we have the player on with us, let's get some player approval before we continue. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and start on the rest of it. Oh, he's got a hat too. So I guess some of it could be covered by the hat. Shoot, I forgot I had a hat. I gotta go look at hats real fast. I know I was looking at fedoras earlier. Gotta find something that's sort of tilted in the right direction. We've got like a, I feel like okay, so if he's looking down and this is the hat, we would not see the hair. Should we put the hat on or should we just like cover the hair with the hat? Anyone have thoughts? I'll wait for the player to chime in and I'm going to start working on the coat. Okay, just voting cover the hair. So let's go through. The Hero Forge characters, like they always look kind of clunky with the hats. The hats always feel like very full. So I'm trying to find a fedora from like the same view. I think I found one here. Let's go with this. Okay, so this is gonna be like, So it's always good to draw the head before you draw the hat because, I mean, not necessarily drawing all the hair, but it is always good to draw on the head shape because then you know how big the hat needs to be. It looks like it's got like a band on it from what he sent on Hero Forge. So I guess that's a Fedora thing. I don't know a ton about hats. I'm going to kind of go with kind of a mix of what I'm seeing here and what I saw on his Hero Forge character. It's funny, he's giving kind of like detective vibes, which is similar to the last character who's also in that campaign. I'm wondering if they'll like be best friends or if they'll hate each other. Okay, and then of course I have to get rid of that hair I drew because I forgot he had a hat on. That hat is too tall. That hat needs to be lower on his face, huh? Just don't want to cover up his expression. You know, we'll just bring all of this lower. That makes more sense. Does that work? Is that a fedora? Sort of. Yeah, that works. Skagwater, if you want to chime in with anything, feel free. I'm gonna lose that eyebrow, which somehow makes him look more extreme of an expression. I don't know. Okay. All right. I guess that could work. I'm not quite sure how hats usually sit. I want to know more about hats. It looks kind of accurate from what I'm seeing on the model picture that I'm looking at. So yeah, sure, we'll go with that. And it looks like he's all blue from the Hero Forge character. And I think you can customize everything on there. I don't think it gives you specific shades of blue though. We'll play around with that. Okay, what else have we got? He's got a chainmail shirt. Oh, we need to do the rest of the. Okay. We'll do the rest of the coat. Come around out here. We'll come around down here with the coat, and I'm assuming his one leg is here. One leg is here. Okay. Yeah, that seems believable. Okay. And then he's got, it looks like a belt. He's got a shirt over his chainmail. So we'll go through. I don't mind copying Hero Forge characters as much as I mind copying other people's artwork. So Hero Forge, because it's kind of like a blank set of things that's made by the player, I'll be a little bit more accurate too. Skagwater, do you want the same like shirt thing? All right. And then it looks like there's like some sort of a lining on this coat reference that he sent. And I like the idea of like embroidery on it, but since he's a ice-based warlock, I'm going to look up some shapes of like frost on windows and copy some of those. I think it would fit the character a little bit more. All right, I'm going to turn this into more of a lining than like a slim line. It's a little bit easier to sort of draw and paint in, but also it feels like it adds a little bit more interesting variation, I think. And then, okay, it's got like cuffs. So got a cuff there, and then over here, got a cuff here. So it's good to know where your character's arm is. A lot of it probably is going to get covered by clothing, but you want to draw around the muscle, not like through it. So for example, I can maybe like put a shadow here or something because I know that's where his arm actually is. We can maybe add some patterning there later. I'll go in and add patterning with like something else. Oh, you send a bunch of notes. Okay. Okay. Found looked cool. Okay. Okay, it's just a basic top under his jacket with some chainmail peeking through. So we'll keep a little bit of chainmail up here just to show he's wearing a chainmail shirt. You can add like a few little links. Usually what I use, I just do it gray and then I go back through and I add in some like indication of shininess with like a white gel pen. All right, then he's got a basic shirt. Oh, I guess when I hear basic shirt, I think like a generic peasant shirt. But I feel like he's a little more high class than that. Do like a straight collar. Could also put like give the shirt like a weird like extra collar in here underneath. I feel like that has like something to do with fashion. He seems like a fashionable person. All right. Let's go through and let's add some spiral folds, which is something you usually see in clothing, just to make it feel kind of natural. Over here, we'll add some half locks. And continue wherever we see like the muscle kind of break up. We'll add a few spiral folds just to sort of emphasize that. And then of course here it's going to bulge, so we'll have the folds coming in on this side. A few half locks here. All right, I feel like this one and the first one are both like different types of edgy detectives. All right, here we go. Sure, that works okay, I guess. I'm not like thrilled with this one. I kind of want to mess around with it a little bit. Maybe we'll give him like some really overcast eyes, some dark circles. If you're beholden to a genie, I feel like that would be exhausting. And also, oh, you know what we could do? We could do sort of like a shadow over the whole face, because there could be a shadow being cast by his fedora. Yeah, that works okay. All right, just go back through and mess with some of this stuff. Okay. And I kind of like that sideways belting or whatever it is that the Hero Forge character has on. So we'll keep some of that. Maybe keep some of the same lining as on the coat. I'm not sure how else he would wear it, so I will add buttons. Some buttons here. It's kind of cool. Buttons on the side. Okay, I think that's kind of working. I'm just looking up frost shapes. And let's pick a couple of those frost shapes and just sort of have them coming out. Okay, it looks like they're sort of like they spike up and outward, and then they're just sort of like fuzzy on the side. So maybe it'll be a series of sort of like flat spiked lines that move out over here. Kind of reminds me of like a rib cage or something, like really delicate ones, like a fish rib cage. Okay. Gonna work. Maybe I'll make it a little bit more irregular. Like I'll join some of them and maybe not others. The other pen. So I feel like this is pretty set at this point. So I want to play around with some of the detailing, make the lines a little sharper. Okay, I feel like these like slightly jarred lines are working a little better than the other ones. The other ones feel a little bit too much like lightning bolts. So we'll go back and we'll kind of play with those. Some can be smaller or shorter. Yeah, I kind of dig that. Trying to continually go back and look at my reference. And it looks like Frost has like some little areas like sprouting off sometimes from it, which I want to be kind of true to. Let's see. Almost done with the drawing. Anything you want to add, Water, before we move on to painting? Oh, look, and it's right at 5 o'clock. We are on time. Gives us like an hour to paint. I'm going to be a little bit more general on this side because once you've established what this looks like, you can just sort of establish a pattern on the other side of a 3/4 view and it'll stick or read as like pretty much, the same thing. You don't have to put quite as much detail into it because you're looking away from it in perspective, so you wouldn't see as much of it. Okay, great. So go ahead with this. I wonder if this needs to feel a little bit more icy and less fiery. I'll go through and with the power shape, I'm going to add some like frostishness to it so it's not quite as smooth. And we'll keep that. Oh, maybe we can come back in with that opalescent stuff and we can put some opalescent stuff on the magic, make it feel a little bit more icy. I'm putting some of the ice magic on top of the character, but I'm keeping the character underneath because I want the audience to still be able to see it. And also I want to make sure that that I know where things are. And I'll probably paint it underneath and then just sort of layer this on top like we did with the armor with the first character. That's cool. Actually, it reminds me a little bit of coral, which goes with the conch shell. It's like ice-like coral. It's constantly undulating. It'd be kind of a cool flavor for it. Like a frosty Eldritch Blast. Like maybe it's cold, kind of like because it's deep sea related. Okay. I think this is working, and I'm just going to go through one last time and see if there are any other things that I need to add. Color-wise, he's got blue aesthetic, short brown hair, gray eyes, and a bright pink conch shell. Okay. So let's go through and let's start coloring. Oh, and he's got pale skin, so I guess he's white. All right. So mix up some skin tone. I don't think he's going to be quite as like alabaster as the previous character, and at least I don't want them to have exactly the same skin tone. So I'm going to add in a tiny bit of purple and a little bit of yellow, like a desaturated yellow. That works. It's kind of fleshy. And we can make it lighter by just adding more water. That works. And we'll just continue adding water until he looks like a pale person. And if you have short hair, and you're gonna see, you know, like it's more buzzed like this character is on the sides, you're gonna see a little bit of skin tone through it. So usually what I like to do is I like to paint over the hair with the skin tone as well, and then paint the hair color on top. I'm just adding some more water here because I want him to be a lighter color. Also, I think it might be fun to do a lighting effect here coming from the Eldritch Blast. So we're going to take this and I'm going to add a little bit of like icy blue glow to his skin on one side that'll kind of be coming from this. We'll go back through, we'll add things on top of it. Let me go through and kind of add some blue to his hands as we see the Eldritch Blast light. And I am going to go through and I'm going to add, while this is wet, I do want to add like pink to him and stuff, and then I'll add some more blue on top. He didn't specify rosy cheeks or anything, so I am going to dilute this. But I want to give an indication of the color zones, and I also need to give an indication of the blue color zone over here. Add some shadows around his face. Especially around where I made the cheekbone. Kind of underneath here, kind of indicating like a little bit of a 5 o'clock shadow by going in with the blue on the neck and where facial hair grows. And then I'll go back in with that bright blue color for shading. And I have some aqua that I might get white over here. There we go. I think it looks a little more unnatural, so it fits as a light source better. So we'll do that in here too. I think the more unnatural the glow, the more it makes sense. Yeah, it's a warlock. I feel like patrons are not supposed to feel natural. All right, so for the skin, we are going to start with a natural skin color, but then we're going to go over it with something else that's, you know, kind of bright blue and dark. kind of like when you're holding, you know, like fire, there's like a glow in the middle of your fingers. We'll kind of do that, but with blue, which is not going to read as a glow, I don't think, because it's not a warm color, but we will sort of emphasize this. The more intense a glow is, the closer it is to white. So we're actually going to make this quite pale and then make the area around it a lot more intense of a blue. You get the saturation of something the farther away you get from its center. Kind of like the sun. You know, the sun casts yellow light. You look right up at the sun, it's white. It only looks yellow because of the yellow around it. All right. And I'm just going to try and kind of dilute some of this throughout the skin to make it feel like it's more of an effect. Okay. And I'll go through and I'll darken that later with like other shades of blue and stuff. All right. Just gonna go through and color this. I think maybe the closer it gets to the top, like the more the color will sort of solidify. Maybe it changes color at the tip. I kind of like the idea that it's, you know, it's magic, it's moving, and color changes are a good way to indicate movement. So we'll change to like a slightly different color, maybe a deeper color, closer we get to the top. Try to stick some of that over here. Darker color up there. Okay. All right. I kind of like that. It looks like it's smoky almost. Continue on with that for the color. Have to be very careful to go around the shell. Right, and we'll come back and we'll transition to the other blue. All right, and then I'm gonna come back with some like very intense pigment and kind of redo some of these lines around the hand, just sort of try and continue to emphasize that color. And you can go like a little bit of white too, and just sort of like glom onto some of the areas here and here. Maybe here a little bit. I think this is blue here, so play around with it. I think the embroidery you showed me was like gold, but I feel like he's got kind of like a darker, edgier vibe. Maybe we'll do like some black micron drawings of those frost shapes on there. That, and then see if I can get some of that white to come out. Sometimes I love these Uniball pens, but they get clogged sometimes. So you like take the thing out and you go into it. There we go. And add just like a little bit of white ink around here to add a glow effect. Okay, I think that's enough messing with it. All right, let's go back to adding a little bit of life to this character. He's looking a little too blue. I don't want him to come off as like, dead or anything. And kind of mix some of these colors together. That works. You want to be very clear about like the jaw and everything. I think that'll be fun. I'll fade it out over here toward the chin and give a little bit of warmth here just for some variety. That works. Okay. He's got brown hair, so let's go ahead and mix up some brown. I think it was like a medium brown, my Hero Forge. We'll go with like a warm brown to sort of counteract some of that blue. And I'm using a little bit of dry brushing here, so it can feel like it's not 100% filled in. It's like a buzz from what I saw. There we go. I'm gonna use that for some of the flesh lines too. Let's go around and kind of emphasize this. I do want to add a little bit of red to the tip of his ear just for the color zone. We'll go through, we'll fade it out. Come back in with this like dark blue color. I want to make sure we have a cast shadow over here. And I'm also going to use that to sort of emphasize the shape of the jaw. So what I'm doing is I am using blue shadows for the color zone, but I'm adding a little bit of orange in too, because blue and orange are complements. And if the light source is blue, and if part of the local color is blue, your shadow is going to tint orange. Okay. There we go. I'll kind of dim this out too. It's not like straining his muscle that hard. Okay, then we need to go over eyes. Again, I'm going to use a micron for that. Oh, you meant for it to be silver. Okay, well, we can go in with silver. Or just wait, maybe. All right. And I just want to go through and take a fleshy color and just sort of emphasize some of these features like the nose, New lines, make sure that nostril gets nice and dark. So you'll be able to see some of it. If you add blue, you make anything significantly darker usually. And then I'll pick like a kind of deep burgundy for his lips and kind of mix it in with the flesh tone so it doesn't seem too lipsticky. There we go. If there's anything you're seeing that you want to change, Skagwater, feel free to let me know. And we'll go in with eyebrows. We'll do a little bit of like blackish blue added to them since eyebrows tend to be a darker color. I want to do a darker brown for that. They're also in shadow. I think that really cements his expression. All right, we'll come in with a few more shadows here. Grabbing some blue and orange, which technically make brown. When you mix complementary colors together, they usually make brown, but depending on how much you tint them, you can get something that feels a little different. Kind of shade over the hair over here a bit. All right, and we just need to kind of dim his eye down. That works. All right. Well, we have some gray. Let's go ahead and start in with that chainmail. Okay. What should we do next? Maybe the belt. He's got like white accents. I'm gonna double check. Ooh, we can do the conch actually. That'll be fun. Let's get some light colors. Have a little bit of yellowish around here. Looks like the inside of a conch is bright pink. I know it says a pink conch, so I'm assuming like, because he sent some reference of a conch that was just pink on the inside. I'm assuming it's just the inside that's pink and not the outside. But you can let me know if that's not true. Just gonna kind of rough this in and then add more to it later, especially around the shadows. And then let's see, I'll actually take that petal color we used for the other character's flowers and throw it in there. Get a little bit more of an intense red to get a more vibrant pink toward the center. Unless you would want it to be like super red. I think I have some fluorescent pink ink I could pull out. But aside from that, I think that's the best I can do for you. Just gonna go over some of these pencil lines with like a deep pinkish yellow. So you feel like it's more in line with the color scheme. Gonna pull in some shadows here. And there's a little bit of pink on the outside over here, it looks like. So we'll pull that in. Okay. I think we're good here. Let's start laying colors for the coat and hat and shirt. So he looks pretty uniformly blue. Looking at Hero Forge, but they may not have given him a lot of options with the color. So we're going to play around with a couple different shades of blue. I don't want to have everything the same. Potentially his hat and coat could have been made to be like to go together, the set or the shirt and coat. But I think having everything the exact same shade of blue might be a little odd. Don't want to mess too much with it. Okay. Oh, I think we already established that this was blue here. So let's use this blue for the cuffs. Right, and then the shirt can be, let's do one of these like deep, intense blues. And we'll do the lining in like a darker blue or something and sort of spread this out. I think there are some light elements, so we'll do some white lining on the coat. And then I think the belt was white. Usually if you want to work in big chunks and make everything kind of the same color, you can layer things together with watercolor. It's pretty standard. I am going to erase like a couple of these muscle lines that don't make sense to be there anymore. Just gonna make that a little smaller so I can see the chat. Right. Let's go in with like a copper color maybe for the belt buckle. Or maybe actually given this aesthetic, maybe gray / silver makes the most sense. And then I'll go in with a really pale off-white blue for these frosts and pick around them when I go back with another color. Or maybe the lining will match, that makes sense. All right. I think at this point, I just need to wait for things to dry for a while because everything is really wet and I don't want to mess with it too much. So I guess we'll take a quick break. One thing I can do is I can draw some of these frost shapes on this piece that is dry. It's a felt tip and it's getting a little clogged going over like rough watercolor paint. So I'm just having to like sort of scribble really quickly on a scrap piece of paper before I continue ever so often. Continues to run, the ink sort of flows. That one's too wet still. I do think I can probably go in with the belt. And I'll go with like an off-white, I guess. I don't want it to be 100% white like the paper. I want it to still feel like it's colored. Do like a little bit more of a gray. I feel like you can't see it yet. There we go. It matches the aesthetic anyway. All right. The buttons and the trim for this. All right, let's go ahead and figure out a color for this coat. It's pretty saturated in the picture, so I'll go for a more saturated blue. Just kind of start laying it in. It's almost the hat color. It's not quite the hat color. I added a little bit of one other blue to it. So I'll need to work on keeping this wet enough to sort of fill in all the areas around the frost embroidery. So I'll go over it first once up to the sleeve and then kind of try and work in all the detailed bits and then do the area below the sleeve. And then once it dries, I'll go back in and do the shadows. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but that's okay. Just because there's such minute lines. Fortunately, the pencil is dark enough that it helps carry some of it. If you're working with watercolor, it really helps not to have too much water on your brush when you're doing high detail work like this. A fairly low amount of water on my brush. Ideally, if a brush is good, it'll come to a perfect point and it's mostly dry, and that's what you can use to get some, finer details like this. I use Wizardry Series 7 brushes and Raphael Kolinsky brushes sizes 0 through 4. All right. Oh, thanks, Kristen. Right. And ideally, you want to add plenty of water to this area first. And then you can sort of pull it in as it starts to dry. Hopefully it doesn't dry. And if it does, you want to kind of leave very small gaps where it dries so that they're not super noticeable. Because usually when watercolor dries, it makes a hard line that's difficult to erase. All right, there's one side minus the shading. And oh gosh, okay. This other one is going to take a little bit more time. I'm going to sort of scooch this up because I keep getting paint on my hand. I'm worried about it smudging on the drawing again. On the paper. Okay. I feel like this dude is from like Fantasy Brooklyn or the equivalent of it. He's got the look. Maybe I just mean that he's street smart. I don't know. I'm thinking, I guess I don't know a ton about New York. I'm thinking more of the accent than anything. Like I feel like the last detective dude was a little bit more like Sherlock. And then this dude is a little bit more like a private eye type. I don't even know if he's a detective. Probably not. It would be kind of funny if there were two detectives though. All right, then it seems like gray is kind of a theme here. So let's mix up like a neutral to dark gray. And we'll use that for the band on the hat. Then we'll go through and just sort of slowly add some shading here, emphasizing the lines that were sort of glossed over. Oh, top of it is still wet. We'll have to go back and do that later. Huh. This one has a lot of places where like things are still wet and we just can't do things. I guess I can go through and just paint in like a little bit of a cast shadow here. I need to fill in this with that off-white. And over here. See if we can get like a wash of like gray or something on the side of the hat to give it that sort of Fedora shading. All right. Yeah, that works. I'll come back and I'll like solidify the hat in a little bit. Go through and emphasize some areas of the conch. Sort of go over some of the line art here. Here on the edge. And then maybe with one of these medium to dark colors, we can sort of emphasize the difference between the lining and the frost embroidery. And hopefully by then some other things will be dry. Oh shoot, I'm realizing there was like some bleed over here too. That's what happens when something isn't completely dry and you paint on it anyway. It's okay, it's not too bad. I'm just trying to add like a shading here. Oops, it's a little dark. Spread it around a little bit. All right, I think some of it is dry. We'll go through and we'll take a darker blue. And we add a little bit of orange to it, just to make that shadow feel a little more believable. And we'll go through and start pulling out some of these shadow areas. Nice. And I forgot this area over here. Fill that in real quick. I think we're pretty much done. I don't know why this took so much less time than the other one. Maybe the other one had a few more details. Maybe because the armor was complex. Oh well. Pull this up a little bit. Okay, I think this is working. It's at a pretty good spot. Don't have a lot of stuff that we need to highlight. Go through and just sort of add a little bit of a, trying to get my gel pen to work again. There we go. Add a little bit of a highlight over here. Oh shoot. Ooh, okay, well, we'll repaint that, I guess. I used a lot of pigment for this because I thought it would be fun. And it's taking a long time to dry. And I just dumped my finger in an area that was not dry. But I don't think there's actually any shading that's going to happen here because it's a fairly stiff coat. It's not falling down. It doesn't have any folds that I need to emphasize. So I do think like after I finish coloring this little bit in here that we're pretty much done unless there's anything, unless Skagwater, you have any comments or anything else you want to add to this piece? Yeah, we'll leave that as is. I think it'll dry a little lighter. Oh, you know what? I do still need to do patterning on here. Now this is dry and I need to fill it in gray. Keep forgetting little things that I forgot. Remembering little things that I forgot. There we go. Okay. Go in with a gray, light gray. There we go. It feels frosty. Slash silvery. And if anything, I guess we can add a little bit of that. So is it the green one that's wet? Yep. Can add a little bit of shininess over here and sort of the heart of the Eldritch Blast he's holding. Gotta like move my hand really carefully so I don't mess it up again. Okay. And there we go. I can kind of show you some of the shininess. And there's our other character. And after this, we've only got 2 more. So to recap, I will be doing my next stream here on, I think, the 24th. It's the last Tuesday in June. And then starting July, we're going to be doing our Amalia game, I believe, which we'll see how that works out. I want to make sure I have character art done for it. Or maybe it was end of July we were going to do it. Then we're going to do character art for July. It'll start in July. Anyway, also the Artena game, which this is for, starts Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Right now, we're going to switch over to Kristen, who is going to be doing Chaos Curiosities in about 15 minutes if you want to watch her world build for that game. And Friday at 6 p.m., Kristen is also running the Last Masquerade one-shot, which is a collaborative world building game where you create rooms in a mansion. If you want to see my work, you can head over to Maria Oglesby Art. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Yeah, thanks for watching.